Welcome to Corrective Consciousness episode 220, the podcast where we explore the inanity of pop culture. I'm your host, vysethebold, and this is
Lotus Prince.
And we have another great show here for you, talking about Castlevania Part 9. I mean...
Oh my god, you fooled them all!
So we could talk about the jank ports of Castlevania that just came out on this week on GOG. I mean,
impossible. No. We're talking about the PS1. It can't be done.
No, we
could talk about how Alucard chews you out for putting the CD in your PC.
But you won't listen to me anyway. So I thought it would be appropriate to do a show talking about like great games to look back at on the PS1. You know, what games that were emblematic at the time, because it's easy to forget what games were important like this many generations ago for the PlayStation 1 era, because like early 3D is not the easiest thing to go back to, and we have all these ODE options coming out for the PS1, so I think it's appropriate to go over some games that you may want to look into, and kind of survey, because I think it's ripe to be looked at, considering the time frame right now. So I wanted to go over some really great titles, and whenever I think of the PS1, probably like the biggest companies I think of are Capcom, Konami, and Square.
And Human Entertainment.
So you can play your Japanese-only Twilight Syndrome and Clock Tower.
Was Twilight Syndrome the Suda51 game?
Yes, that is correct.
The one that Killer 7 alludes to in a cutscene that nobody understands because we can't.
Yeah, and Danganronpa 2 also alludes to it as well.
Wow, okay.
Very heavily. Did you play Danganronpa 2 yet?
No. Although, I mean, I could believe it. Like, Danganronpa 1 alluded to, like, some, like, 80s anime. It's like, it alluded to, this is not an 80s anime, but it alluded to, like, Akagi.
Oh, okay.
I think it was Akagi, like, the Mahjong thing. It alluded to, Fist of the North Star. It's, okay, why not?
Well, Danganronpa 2 has this is spoiler-free. I'm not ruining anything here for you. Has a gamer character, like her specialty is that she's like the best gamer. She alludes to, not even just alludes to, like there are like instances in the game that like flash back to a game that looks just like Twilight Syndrome.
What a weird thing to focus on.
She explains like the plot and something similar to the plot of Twilight Syndrome.
Okay, that's more than we got because we never got the actual game.
Yeah. Apparently, it's like a pretty influential title in Japan that we never got a hold of.
Well, who knows? Maybe one day they'll bring it over, like they brought over Silver Case like 20 years later.
I believe it. I mean, Suda51's still pretty chummy with Human Entertainment. He just did a campaign for them for the Fire Pro Wrestling game.
Sure.
He did a new like storyline for them, so that's pretty cool. But whatever I think of the PS1, I think of its third party candidates. Its third party publishers, because let's face it. I mean, Sony Entertainment back then, like. Now they have a lot more going for them, with Horizon Zero Dawn and Last of Us and things like that. But Naughty Dog was a third party publisher for them at the time.
Naughty Dog was like the I mean, this is not PS1 but PS2, but they were like the Jak and Daxter people for a while.
Well, they started off as the Crash Bandicoot people.
That's right. They did do Crash Bandicoot. Okay.
Yeah, Crash Bandicoot is extremely important to the PlayStation legacy. Without Crash Bandicoot, probably wouldn't have had as many early adopters as they did for the PlayStation 1 when that came out.
And you certainly wouldn't have had the Crash Bandicoot section of Uncharted 4.
that is true. But Crash Bandicoot was like 3D platformer series for PlayStation 1 in the very beginning.
Yeah,
Later
I was
on,
gonna
you got
say like Spyro.
Spyro came later. I think Spyro didn't show up until after Crash 2, if I'm not mistaken. But Crash Bandicoot was a big series that helped. When PlayStation came out, you have to remember what it was like, what the landscape was like. You had Sega and you had Nintendo, and that was basically it. I mean, like there have been other people who had tried. You had like 3DO, and you had Philips CDI that had tried to get a foothold. You had Jaguar that tried to get a foothold around this time.
Yeah, no, PlayStation had to hit us with something that like. You know how Netflix kind of popularized its streaming service by having a known quantity, like Arrested Development at first?
Arrested Development, yeah.
And we got more series where this came from. A PlayStation like had Final Fantasy VII. They were like, we're doing 3D Final Fantasy. You already know what Final Fantasy is, and you love it. Here's the next one. I was going to
say Square Games, and this was before they were Square Enix, mind you.
Yeah, just Square.
Square had a fantastic output on the PS1. In fact, I would say that it's unrivaled. This era of Square was probably their best and most fondly remembered of all of their eras, because of like how much they produced and like what kind of experimental things they did, and like almost every game was really good. I can't think of a bad one on PS1. Can you think of anything that was bad from Square?
Not outright bad. Probably the most lukewarm what might have been like Parasite Eve 2 or something.
Yeah.
Or Chrono Cross at the time, because the music was like utterly unparalleled, but people were like,
looking back
Chrono.
on it,
I thought it'd be Chrono Trigger 2. But yeah, looking back, people look at it a lot more fondly now.
Yeah, people love Chrono Cross now, but I can't think, like the only one that I can think of, maybe the Saga Frontier games are a little tough to get into because of what they are. They're a little funky. Was it Legend of Mana was a little funky too. But yeah, we can even go into Square's output. So Final Fantasy VII, obviously, one of the top tier, like biggest titles of any system ever. Definitely a system seller.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's the number one selling game for the system, isn't it? I can't think of anything that would have sold more copies.
Yeah, I don't even know.
I can't think. I don't think. I think I'm pretty accurate in saying that. And then you have Final Fantasy 8 and 9 on PS1, which were also mammoth titles, and you had Tactics as well, which is better remembered now than at the time. At the time, it was like a very crunchy game. It was like a game that you played if you're really into the strategy of it. And I think that eventually got a greatest hits, but it took a while for Tactics to get greatest hits run. But yeah, like you said, there were all kinds of other great titles on the system. You had
Ehrgeiz, God Bless the Ring.
Yeah, Ehrgeiz,
the best game ever made.
Which had a bunch of Final Fantasy VII characters in it.
That's the only reason people have even heard of it, is because you can play as like Sephiroth, and that's crazy.
Was it Tifa and Cloud and Barret are in it too? I think, right?
Cloud for sure. Tifa, I'm
Tifa
pretty
is
sure.
Definitely in it.
Barret probably.
I'm not. Barrett's the only one I'm not sure of, but I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I could always look it up, but whatever.
Yeah. So that one was originally an arcade title. I don't know if you knew that or not.
Yeah, that's also kind of hard to believe.
Yeah, I played the arcade version like way after it came out on PS1.
No, okay, there's no Barret, but there is Vincent.
Okay, Vincent.
There's Yuffie, and there's even Zack.
A lot more. Wow. Zack's in it? Wow.
Can you believe it?
Yeah, wow, crazy. Yeah, the PlayStation 1 version of this was a lot more developed. They had like a whole adventure mode in this title that like allowed you to like play like this whole like quest mode that was pretty cool. And that it was a lot more developed than just like the one-on-one fighting that you had.
Yes.
In the arcade version. So definitely a good one to look back on. And while we're at it, we could talk about the toe ball games. Toe ball number 1, which only came out in the United States, and then toe ball number 2 also came out in Japan. But
wait, toe ball number 1 was a U.S. exclusive?
No, what I'm trying to say is toe ball number 1 only was
the only one the U.S. got.
The only one that U.S. got.
I was gonna say that game's so Japanese it hurts. There's no way it was an American exclusive.
No, it was art by Akira Toriyama. And
yeah, you can tell because one of the characters is not Goku, like the face.
Yeah, sure.
One thing that was kind of cool, by the way, that this is a very odd thing to bring up because like this happens so rarely, but the not Goku character has a particular special move that he can only use against one particular enemy because it's the Mario 64 like grab their tail and spin and throw them. And there's only one enemy with a tail. That's such a specific move. Like you the only other time I've ever heard of anything like this is in Virtua Fighter 5, where Pai-chan has a counter to a particular move performed by Pai-chan. Like, you're never going to do it. How would you know to use that?
That's awesome. But, this game was pretty interesting because it was kind of like a Virtua Fighter,
sort of.
Like, competitor.
What was cool was the game actually plays at 60 FPS.
Yeah, I was going to mention that.
It's a very smooth game. And by the way, the music...
One of the very few.
The music is, like... very different. It's very good. It's very interesting.
This also had its own adventure mode that was a lot of fun. I think you could play as like all kinds of different characters in the game.
Yeah, I think you could just play as anyone on the roster. Yeah,
which is like I think there are a ton of them.
There's like 8 or something.
Yeah, but like I think there was like mooks in there that you could play with or something.
I don't know if you could play as them, but yes, they exist.
It was pretty cool.
Can you see characters of this game? I don't know how many characters. But yeah, the music though. It said the music in this game, the first one, was composed by 8 of Square's composers.
Wow.
Which is bananas. Yeah. This includes Yasunori Mitsuda, Kenji Ito, and Yoko Shimomura. Like that's nuts.
Yeah, every song has to be somebody different. That's what's going on there. And number 2 never came out in the United States, but they recently did a fan translation of it.
That's cool. I actually own toe ball number 2.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize this, but there's a mobile phone version called Toe Ball M, which was in 2007. 10 years later, after Toe Ball number 2, they make another fucking toe ball game. Wow. It's so weird.
Oh, wow. Jeez. And let's see here. Yeah, you had Chrono Cross, which at the time...
Hold on 1 second. There's one thing I want to point out that I did not know about. Because Toe Ball number 1 has like 8 or 10 characters, right?
Yeah.
I've never actually played Toe Ball number 2, so I didn't know about this. But it says, as of 2010, Toe Ball number 2 held the record for the largest character roster in a fighting game.
Yeah, it had a crazy ass roster. Maybe that's
200 characters.
Yeah.
What the
you could play as the mooks. You could play as every enemy in the game, I think.
But what game, even for just enemies, has that many? Like that's insane.
Yeah, no, it's
200.
It's bananas. Yeah. So
okay.
Yeah, there are all kinds of that's stuff. Those are definitely ones to look back on. You also have Chrono Cross, which a lot of people love to this day. Like you were saying, it wasn't as well regarded when it first came out, I think.
No.
But it was kind of a disappointment. But nowadays people love it. And let me see here. Vagrant Story, which is a very divisive game. Some people either love it or absolutely hate it.
Yeah.
Let me see. Xenogears, which...
People swear by Xenogears. That game is such a good reputation.
Yeah, but it also has a reputation for being only half finished. Like, the second half of it is just, like, really, really quick.
Yeah, and not only that, but I mean, like, look at what its series is a part of.
Yeah.
It's basically... Like there's the Xenosaga series, which part 3 of that series was obviously hastily finished. Mm-hmm. And Xenogears, I think, was supposed to be like episode 5 in like I was gonna literally say the Xeno saga, but like you know what I mean, the
Yeah,
Xeno games saga.
yeah, they're all technically connected, even Xenoblade.
Yeah, that
But
one I have more difficulty figuring out how that's supposed to work.
I think they're just so overarching, like in different time periods that
Like
it doesn't
Drakengard
really
and Nier,
matter.
it's like, yeah, well, you
Doesn't
can
even
explain
really
it.
matter. There's only like vague references and a lot of like supplemental material
Sure,
has
sure,
stuff like
sure.
that. But you also have Brave Fencer Musashi, which was a fun adventure title. You had Einhinder, which is one of the best shmups ever made, and Square has never done anything with it ever again,
Yeah, like
which is
Einhander,
ridiculous.
like I mean, I've watched the gameplay. It looks pretty cool. I like that you could shoot parts off of bosses and stuff.
It's an amazing game.
But
It's
like,
one of my
I'm not
favorites.
interested in playing it. But like that, oh my god, that game's soundtrack
It's
is
amazing.
unbelievable. Yeah, like the boss music, like level one's boss music, Shudder, is like one of the
Ugh,
coolest tracks ever in anything.
Chef's Kiss. Love that. Love that song. I used to play that over and over in my car. Like
Yeah,
I
oh,
burned
so
it
did
to a
I. So did
CD.
I. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good one. You have Internal Section, which was a Japanese only shmup title as well, and that was quite good. Legend of Mana, which was like the first sequel to Secret of Mana that we got in the United States. Because we never got Seiken Densetsu 3. So that's kind of a divisive title. Some people either really love it or really hate it.
Mm-hmm.
And you have Bushido Blade 1 and 2. Bushido Blade 1 in particular is very well beloved. It's still talked about today in terms of like this is a way that a fighting game can play if done right. Like you can
It's a
barely get
3D
hit.
game done competently.
Yeah, not only that, but like it just has like a really great reward system. You can only get hit a couple of times at most.
Yeah,
Um,
like it treats fighting with blades realistically, so one hit is probably a kill, and if not, then it's almost a kill.
yeah, like you will be severely crippled after getting hit that one time.
Yeah, if you get hit in the
As well.
leg, like that's it for you.
Yeah. Moving on from that, those are like the big Square titles to
Yeah,
look
and
back on.
actually, this does remind me that this is
Oh,
segueing a
Parasite
little
Eve.
bit, but the idea that you could swing at each other and clash blades, they're like I'm skipping a little bit, but another company is Namco, and
Oh yeah,
they had Soul Edge in the arcade, but on PS1 it was known as Soul Blade.
yeah.
And what was interesting, that game does something that the Soul Calibur series never did again. Two things actually. One of them, if you clashed blades with each other, you'd like hold the blades against each other and like mash to try to like break the other opponent's grip or guard or whatever.
Sure.
But also your weapons actually had durability. You could have your weapon broken and you're reduced to
Oh
fists,
yeah, I
which
remember that.
never happens
There's
like in
also
any other
blood in
game.
this game too. There, it was like the last time blood
I
was
think
ever
so.
present. Yeah.
What I also thought was cool was that from the options menu, you could actually select the original soundtrack or the like arranged soundtrack. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah. So Namco actually did a lot of really great work on this system. In fact, um, a lot of the arcade games they were making at the time got improved versions on the home version.
Yeah.
So like, for instance, Soul Blade is a lot better than the arcade version of Soul Edge.
Yeah, so I've
It's a
heard. I
lot
have
better.
very little experience with the arcade game, but I've heard that Blade is the way to go anyway.
Yeah, that was also the same case with Ridge Racer. They actually improved the graphics when it came over to PlayStation One. That's another
Yeah.
big series for early PlayStation. Ridge
And you
Racers.
also had a sort of story mode like Soul Calibur
Oh
1
yeah.
did. So like I don't think you would get that in the arcade. You would have I
Oh yeah.
mean, duh, arcade mode.
Yeah, a lot of games were famous for adding all kinds of extra modes to them around this era. If they
Yeah, and you
were
had the different
arcade ports.
unlockable weapons like for each character, which was
Lots of them. Yeah.
it's become a staple, but again, that wouldn't make sense in the arcade machine. So the home releases are the ones to have.
Yeah, and you had Ridge Racers 1 through 4 on the original PlayStation. So that was a huge series. That's like the arcade racing title that you want to go after. course, you have Gran Turismo, which were still even really good sims for the time. Was it Gran Turismo 1 and 2 were on the PlayStation 1? But those were PlayStation, you know, generated. Those they were first party games. But getting back to Namco, they also had the Tekken series, which was huge. No other system had Tekken games, so this was big for PlayStation. This was their mainline 3D fighting series. They have Tekken 1 through 3. All three of them have better versions on the PlayStation 1 than in the arcade.
Yeah, and especially, I forgot if 2 did this, but 3 certainly did. They had, like, just stupid extra mini games like Tekken Bowling and something. It was like what Mortal Kombat would do in, like, the GameCube PS2 era. It just had a bunch of dumbass stuff because it's fun.
Yeah. And they continued that on in Tekken Tag Tournament for the PlayStation 2.
Very nice.
But yeah, crazy stuff. I mean, they also around this time were feeding the nostalgia for their old titles as well. So you had like their Namco Museum titles. There were 6 of them. The final one never came out in the United States, but there were 6 of them in total, and they were really great collections of Namco's old arcade titles, and they did it in a really cool modern way for the time, where you were Pac-Man going around in a 3D museum and looking at supplemental materials and stuff like that. It was really neat.
Yeah, that's stuff that I didn't really expect to see until like the PS2 with like Ratchet and Clank. Like, take a look at our behind the scenes in a playable way. Mm-hmm. Oh, by the way, I should also mention the packaging for Namco Museum, if I'm remembering this right.
Cool stuff, yeah.
Well, like one CD was just the first entry in the Namco Museum was just a big letter N.
Yeah.
So, like, if you have all 5, because, again, you said 6, but America just had 5. If you had all 5 of them, you could spell out Namco, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, you could do the same in the Japanese one. The 6th one was called, like Replay or something like that. You know, they just added another one on the end of it because they had a few more titles. But in Japan, they also had a booklet that you could put, like, all the cases in and, like,
very nice.
It was really neat. This is also where the Ace Combat series began, which is still going to this day, nice and strong. It's the first one is called Air Combat in the United States for some stupid reason, but 1 through 3 were on the PlayStation 1, and they're really a lot of fun, and especially if you played like the fan translations of because we got like butchered versions of them. Like, they took out the story, which is like the best part of these games. Like, otherwise they're just like, the arcadey kind of flight sim that they always are. But like the story is what makes them interesting and fun. So if you play the fan restored versions of these, definitely go for it. And we also have some really great light gun output from them. You had Time Crisis 1, which is like one of the best arcade innovations of all time. Like a light gun game with like another axis of control. Which is really,
I think
really
I've mentioned before, it's like virtually unplayable with a controller, but if you're using a light gun and a CRT, then it's the arcade experience, but better because it has another campaign attached to it.
There are a few light gun projects coming out for that are supposed to work well with HD TVs, so I'm really
if that's the
looking
case, I will be like, sign me right back up to Time Crisis 1. But then there's also Time Crisis Project Titan, which is actually a PlayStation 1 exclusive. It was designed specifically for that system, so it works a little better with. I think it might be is it only controller actually?
No, it's gun compatible.
Okay, but still, it was designed for the PS1, which is pretty cool anyway.
Yeah, in fact, the PlayStation 1 version of the original Time Crisis also has a completely separate campaign with branching paths that was exceptional.
That's rad.
That was really cool. It had a completely different environment and different bad guys to fight than the proper game, which is really neat. There was also another series called Point Blank, which the best way I could describe it is it was kind of like WarioWare, but you played it with light guns. Um, yeah, that's probably the best way I could describe it. It's a bunch of mini games that you
Okay.
compete with your friends. Uh, they were arcade titles that got ports to to the PlayStation 1, and they're really really fun. They're really really good. If you could still play them, there that is. And those are like the biggest titles that Namco put out. And then we have Capcom's output, which like don't even get Lotus started on Capcom's stuff here. But you of course have the Resident Evil games, which were also very important to the PlayStation's legacy. I mean, they invented an entire new genre way of experiencing horror that had never been seen before. That
Kind of.
well,
It was inspired by Alone in the
Alone
Dark.
in the Dark, but come on, this was the real
Yeah,
beginning
this
of
was a
it.
lot more playable. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's certainly um, like it was a brand new franchise, for the PlayStation One that Capcom didn't have before. It wasn't like it was a sequel of something old, which could be very well be, something that they would do because they have such a great legacy. But yeah, I mean, you have Resident Evil 1, 2, and 3, and Survivor on PlayStation 1, right? Another
Yeah, I mean, nobody
game.
cares about Survivor, but yeah, like the other, I mean, Survivor it's just interesting because it's a first person game, but it's jank as hell. But Resident Evil 1, 2, and 3 are just amazing in their own ways.
And you of course have Dino Crisis 1 and 2, which are kind of like spin-offy kind of things. They're not exactly spin-offs, but
Yeah,
they're
Dino Crisis is kind of, sort of Resident Evil Dinosaurs, sort of. And Dino Crisis 2 is just like straight up arcade action.
yeah, I love 2. 2 is like one of my favorite games on the system. I really love it. It's really good. Um, Let me see here. Then you have like all the Mega Man games on the system. So like not only do you have like successors to the older Mega Man games, you have like Mega Man 8, which was the last like classic series Mega Man game for a really long time. They didn't make a sequel to like they didn't make 9 until a
The
long way
Wii.
after. Yeah, a long way after. And they also had Mega Man X 4, 5, and 6.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot 5 and 6 here. But X4 was like the best one. It was really really good. I really enjoyed that title. Um, and
Magma Dragoon's music is way too good.
if you're gonna play like an old school, if you're gonna play Mega Man titles for the PlayStation One, both Mega Man 8 and X4 are like top notch. They're really really good. But
And they both have the bonus of having heavily memed voice acting segments.
Mega Man.
Mega Man, and what am I fighting for?
But not only that, but they carried on the legacy of Mega Man into the 3D realm and didn't really do much after the trilogy that they came out here. But they had Mega Man Legends, The Misadventures of Tron Bonne, and Mega Man Legends 2. I absolutely love these games. I never played Mega Man Legends 2, actually. I've had it ever since it came out. I never got a chance to play it. But the original one is certainly like one of my favorites. I really love that game, and Misadventures of Tron Bonne is phenomenal. I really, really love that too. You ever play those?
No, but I own Mega Man Legends 1 and 2 on disc, and I own Tron Bonne on
Digitally?
PSN.
Yeah, they're worth it. I think you would really enjoy them once you get to them because they're really good. I also wanted to mention that Capcom uncharacteristically had a 3D fighter on the system that was in the vein of like Soul Edge or something like that called Star Gladiator that nobody remembers.
Huh.
Um, it was it had a sequel called Plasma Sword on the Dreamcast, but this is the character that Jin comes from, or I think Jin
The guy with the
from
big
Marvel.
robot fist?
No, I always get them mixed up. This is the guy with the lightsaber from Marvel vs. Capcom. Um,
I know we've already had this conversation, but I too have forgotten.
but
The
yeah,
guy with
yeah.
like the red bandana who is not Strider.
No, it's a white bandana.
Oh, maybe. Oh, maybe no. Maybe that is the character. I'm remembering it wrong. Whatever.
Yeah, but yeah, this was actually a pretty fun game, especially if you go back to it. And it's a game that like nobody talks about. They also had the Rival Schools games. There was like a Rival Schools and Rival Schools 2. Um, that's really they had a few 3D fighters that Capcom put out on the system that like are very overlooked. I mean, Rival Schools is a blast to play. I really like playing that game.
It looks like Star Gladiator might be on the Dreamcast.
No, Plasma Sword is.
Oh, okay. Oh,
That's
Hayato.
Yeah, it's Hayato. You're right.
Okay.
Yeah. No, Star Gladiator Episode 2, aka Plasma Sword, is the second one.
Oh, that guy. Well, Jin also wore white. All right, got
Yeah,
it.
that's why I get them confused. And then there's also like a PlayStation 1 exclusive version of JoJo. All right.
Yeah, I mean, the Dreamcast
There's like
release
extra
had
stuff.
JoJo's Bizarre Adventure as well as JoJo's Venture, which was like another arcade thing, but they were very similar. The PlayStation 1 game only has JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, like Heritage for the Future, but it's got like a story campaign that goes through the Part 3 manga, including characters that aren't normally like in the fighting game, like the gorilla.
Sure.
And Death 13, you could fight against him, but he's not a playable character. You know, stuff like that. And I believe the PS1 fighting game is the first piece of JoJo anything that was officially released in the West, so nobody knew what the hell it was.
Yeah, yeah. I think you're right. I think you're right. It did. I thought it came out side by side with the Dreamcast version. They came out very similar time frame.
Maybe.
Am I right? But that version is independently playable outside of that Dreamcast version, just because of that extra content. There were plenty of other 2D Capcom fighters on the system that were popular at the time, but I absolutely recommend the Saturn versions over all of them. That's kind of why I'm kind of kick gloving the those ones, because like, you know, the Street Fighter Alpha titles were so much better on the Saturn. You know, there's just so many way better 2D fighting
Yeah.
things
Although
going on with the Saturn.
this is going back to 3D fighting, but I do want to give a little bit of a shout out to Rival Schools as well, because that game's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, I brought that up. I already brought up Rival Schools and Rival Schools, the sequel.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, Project Justice. Okay.
Well, there's also a Japanese.
Oh yeah, Rival Schools 2 that we never got. Yeah.
Yeah, Rival Schools 2. And there was a really good Buster Brothers trilogy on PlayStation 1 as well. You had Breath of Fire 3 and 4, which were classics. There were just so many RPGs for this system. It's just really good stuff.
Yeah, and by the way, before we change companies, I do want to backtrack for 1 second to Square, because I totally forgot to bring up Parasite Eve.
Yeah, we forgot to talk about
is also that's an iconic title. You can run around freely during combat, but you have to wait for like a Final Fantasy style bar to fill before you can actually act. The music is again just brilliant, and I don't know if symbolic is the right word, but it has its own like themes and messages of its own. If you like listen for them based on the composition, it's very brilliantly done. And also, the video game is a sequel to a book of the same name. You don't need to read the book to understand the game.
Sure.
There's just a couple little moments where it's like, oh, this is like that other time. But it's just an interesting little bit of trivia in that regard. Solid title with some genuinely disturbing FMV scenes. Like the very first time an enemy appears, like the rat, the most basic enemy in the game, and its cutscene is like terrifying.
Oh yeah,
I have to fight this.
Absolutely.
It's pretty great.
In fact, I think this is going to be our last company, because we're getting a little late here. But we'll go over more titles in the near future. But you can't talk about PS1 and not talk about Konami.
Of course.
Their output on this system was just amazing. Just really, really good stuff. It is, in many ways, I would say, Like some of their they set the tone for like that up to the PS2. They're just so good. So of course you have the Castlevania Symphony of the Night, and lesser so with Chronicles, but Castlevania Symphony of the Night is like one of the best games of all time. It's just so good. I absolutely love this game, and we've talked about it, in our Castlevania retrospective. But there's also, of course, Metal Gear Solid, which absolutely changed the way people thought that cinematic games, um, like like the line between cinema and games, like it just was such a neat experience when it
Yeah.
came out. It just like changed everything. Um, I I would love to do a Metal Gear um, retrospective because like there's just so much to talk about when it comes to Metal Gear, but like just like the voice acting, the storytelling, everything having to do with Metal Gear
The
Solid.
fourth wall breaking.
Yeah, it's just like it was so cool. The political intrigue in it, the ideas, like like the idea that military people are just pawns of their countries, their respective countries, and that like they like there was a faction that wanted to have like their own independence to just be military.
Yeah, and by the time Metal Gear Solid 4 came around, they were pawns not even of countries anymore. They were
Yeah.
PMCs.
Yeah, it's so crazy. It's so crazy. But and then it was so popular that they even had like a standalone VR missions title.
Yeah,
Where
actually, speaking of which, that kind of reminds me. Did the PC version of Metal Gear Solid 1 come with VR missions?
I don't know. That's a good point.
Because I saw a discussion about that on the GOG release. It might have that.
Well, um, the original Metal Gear Solid does have its own VR missions to begin with, so maybe that's it.
Oh, you know what? I think I forgot that because I don't know if Twin Snakes had that.
Oh, okay. Because
Because I never played the actual,
no,
for
there
real first Metal
it has
Gear.
its own VR missions, but the VR missions separate game has its own set of VR missions.
Okay. Yeah, on GOG it says VR missions game included. Got it.
Yeah, I don't know whether that's the full game or just like the the section of Metal
Yeah,
Gear Solid.
I'm not 100%. Not 100%.
But I would think if they were straight up shouting out to it that it probably does include the full game.
Oh, and one of the reviews actually says it's identical in most respects to the PS1 version, apart from the addition of a first person mode, a very easy difficulty with an infinite ammo MP5, and the addition of 300 VR missions originally released as a separate title.
There you
So
go.
it might
Yeah.
be
No, it
it might
does
be
have it.
MGS1 plus VR missions. That's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool.
Obviously, you're not going to have vibration and memory cards, so certain wink wink things are missing, but like that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, you also have Suikoden 1 and 2, which you've been playing lately, right?
Yeah, Suikoden 1 and 2. 1 is brilliant, 2 is arguably brillianter. Suikoden 2, a lot of people are saying is like one of the greatest RPGs, just not even of the system, just ever. And like, I mean, the game was not the most common back in the day, and it's rather expensive now.
It was hard to get even back then.
Yeah, so like the villain of the game is not as famous as like Sephiroth. Everybody and their mother played FF7, but man, oh man, this villain is something else. Like if this game were more widespread, he might have around as much notoriety as Sephiroth. Because this villain, I mean, Sephiroth, man, Luca Blood is a dirtbag. He is a piece of shit. So I'm interested in seeing where this game goes.
Well, I look forward to playing both of those because I've never played them. So.
And one thing I should also mention, by the way, is that there were 5, 6, because there were 5 numbered titles. There was Tactics. There's Tier Crease. So there's 7 titles released in the West, and there's a few more in Japan. There's like a card fighter on GBA and two VNs on PS1. And one major thing about the Suikoden series, this isn't true for every single game, but it is for a lot of them, is that there's save data transfer. And so characters from Suikoden 1, I mean, they're going to appear in Suikoden 2 no matter what, but if you transfer your save data, then aspects of their levels up and their weapon leveling up might carry over into Suikoden 2, which is pretty cool. But what's interesting is that Suikoden 2's data transfers into Suikoden 3, which is the only time a PS1 data is read on a PS2, like ever. But I should also mention that in Japan, the games are not called Suikoden, they're called Genso Suikoden, and the two VNs are called Genso Suiko Gaiden, or something like that. It's like a cute little name. But the I think the first one of those also accepts Suikoden 2's save data. So there'll be little things like when a certain guy comes home when your characters are waiting for him, if you chose to wait, then you'll show up in that scene, and if you chose to just go to bed, you'll be absent because you weren't there in your actual game file. Like little touches like that are pretty cool.
That's awesome. Well, we also have the spiritual successor to Snatcher, Police Knots, one of our favorites.
Yeah, Japan only, but it's been fan translated on PS1 and I think Saturn as well.
Saturn as well, yeah. I think the Saturn one's supposed to be the definitive, but
yeah, I think it's just a little better.
The PlayStation one is not a bad choice in the slightest.
Yeah, and, still solid.
And especially if you played Metal Gear Solid, like it gets a specific shout out as well. So like it.
Well, not only that, but if like this is something that Americans. what was it?
It's a part of the game. Like Police Knots is a significant like mention in Metal Gear Solid.
Well, not only that, but like this is something that Easterners would have just understood, but Westerners would not have. When you turn on Metal Gear Solid, before the game starts, you hear that little jingle, that do 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 do, and it's just like a cool little jingle. But in Police Knots, that's part of a full music track. It's the opening theme of the game. Yeah, and like Americans didn't get that because why would they?
Exactly. I love Police Knots. It's not as good as Snatcher, but it's way up there. It's really great.
It's a solid title, yeah.
And of course we have Silent Hill, the beginning of the Silent Hill franchise here on PlayStation 1.
Fantastic, it's still debated whether it or 2 is the best one, and there are some people who say 3 as well.
Oh yeah, 3 has its fans.
3 is damn well. I mean, of course 3 has its fans, but it's just like the number 1 though. But it's very, very good.
Yeah, I mean, why split hairs? Just you have 3 amazing games.
Yeah, like they are all very, very, very good. Especially because if you just look at screenshots of Silent Hill, it's like, oh, is this another Resident Evil? But it's really not. The enemies are threatening, but they're not the main scares. They're scary, but it's more environmental and psychological. Whereas Resident Evil this is scary because you don't want to get eaten. Silent Hill, the enemies will kick your ass, but it's really more of the situations that are scary. The game gets into your head, which is pretty fantastic. In fact, in Silent Hill 2, the enemies don't even really try that hard to kill you. It's like really about the environment.
Yeah. Well, I think this was a good introduction because we went over all of the biggest titles here. When anybody thinks of PlayStation 1, they think about these companies for sure. I mean, they're the most emblematic. But I do promise that we will go over some really great titles that are not made by these companies in the near future because we unfortunately need to move on and take care of some other business here with our fans.
Absolutely. Yeah, we got a few comments here. School Filmer had a couple of comments. One of them was, once again, I liked the mini partner presentation. And how cool is it that Will-O-the-Wisps is coming to the Switch?
Really cool.
I called that one way back when it came out. Still haven't played Blind Forest yet. Better hop on that as soon as I can. Yeah, damn good game. That I actually 100%ed that game.
Yeah, me too.
And then, again, extending on my wished to be localized answer, a Scandinavian You Don't Know Jack would have been quite fun. especially because it has 4 German versions, a UK version, and French and Japanese versions.
Oh, wow.
One can only wonder what cultural things one could insert into the Norwegian version. Another good deal was Monopoly on the Switch. Good gaming deal. Monopoly on the Switch. May have gone for 75% off, if not too far off. Still, a very good deal.
Yeah,
Monopoly is a
wow.
fun game to play on the Switch, yeah.
Yeah.
And Living Corpse has a couple comments. Bloodstained has possibly the worst curse ever. You meet a killer barber who can only have his curse lifted by giving out something like 100 different haircuts. Yo, that sucks.
Very true.
And then also, referring to a comment I had made last week, the joke that the blurry photos of Bigfoot are not blurry and that's just how he looks reminded me of a story I read a while ago. A guy gets sucked into a storybook, and his 3D nature is messing with inhabitants of this 2D story. It's subtle enough that they don't notice it. They see and interact with him like he's 2D, but one character is mentioned when they look at him for too long, it starts to hurt their head, and another character mentions how he messes with their perception of space. Like when they went to throw a knife at his chest, it hit his hand, because I guess his hand was like in front of him or something.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So they perceive him, but not fully. It's like us trying to perceive 5D space. Like we could see, or like we could see the color violet, but our eyes suck at seeing the true violet.
Sure.
So to us, it looks purple when it could be as different from purple as green is to orange. Fun fact: some flowers use a combo of purple and violet to act as a landing strip for pollinating bugs like bees.
Oh wow,
that's freaking wild. And then Connor says, "I was delighted to see Schitt's Creek do so well at the Emmys. I only got into a few months ago. For a long time, I had no interest because it looked like another generic sitcom.
The sitcom.
Sitcom. It looked like another generic sitcom. But what sets it apart is that, unlike most sitcoms, the humor is rarely based upon or around the character's misfortunes. Apart from the initial setup in the first episode, the wealthy family loses their fortune and has to live in a motel. Things usually go well for the most of the characters, which is a refreshing change. It was a much-needed piece of feel-good TV.
Yeah, you know what?
This year.
I kind of in going into the series, I kind of thought it was one of those series where like they were kind of the bad guys and had to learn something. You know, that kind of thing. Like, but it's really not like that. In fact, the characters are also just really nice. They're just snooty, but they're not mean people. They're not assholes to the people around them. They just don't understand things. So actually, they're what's kind of refreshing is that they are just ignorant. But you're not used to seeing that kind of character be ignorant because like of education and that kind of thing. But they just don't know how the world works outside of their own bubble, which is really neat. I love it. I've watched through most of the first season with my fiance, and it's brilliant too. It's really good. It deserved its accommodations for sure.
Mm-hmm. And then our question, which I should mention, by the way, this is our last question. So if anybody has any questions they want to contribute, please do feel free to. But this question is from Less Listened Audios. What video game world would you want to live in?
We've had the question, what wouldn't you want to live in? And
and my answer is most of them.
Most of them, but what would you want to live in?
Whatever one is boring. I don't want to live in RPG land where like god characters come by and blow shit up. Like I want to live in like
House of the Dead.
I don't know, Harvest Moon land where it's just like
that's pretty cool.
It's just like regular
Stardew Valley.
Regular world. Yeah, like whatever. There's no apocalyptic event. It's just like the real world is fine. I want boring land.
Some place that's a little less volatile than the real world, actually.
Yeah, but I mean, like, you're just a dude working a job. Like, fine, cool, give me that.
That's a good question. You wouldn't want Doom, that's for sure.
Well, that's okay. Doom's only on Phobos. Oh.
Not anymore. I'm straight up struggling. Like the Mario World would be pretty cool to live in. There's a lot of stuff to do.
You could live in New Donk City.
Well, no, it's just fanciful and it's very whimsical and a lot of fun. And there's always an adventure going on. I do like that. I mean, Zelda's pretty fucked most of the time these days.
Yeah, most Zelda games are just overrun by the bad guys' minions.
Yeah, I mean, there have been several...
Zelda's entire universe sucks, like, all the time.
Yeah, Zelda has several post-apocalyptic situations.
Even the original games, they don't have that look at all, but they really are, though. There's like little towns miles away from each other in the middle of monster-infested woods.
Yeah, the more and more they flesh it out, the more and more dire it is.
Yeah, like Zelda 2 had proper towns that are a million miles away from each other and led to danger temples. Link to the Past was just, oh, the Dark World's straight fucked, and the Light World isn't much better. Then you got like Ocarina of Time, where the bad guy just wins in your absence. You have Majora's Mask, where the world straight up ends in 3 days. You have Skyward Sword, which is going back to traditional post-apocalyptic, like, well, not post-apocalyptic, like, you've made do, but the world before you has been destroyed, evidently. Breath of the Wild is just fucking dismal. Like, I mean, it's all pretty fields, but you know what? So is Horizon Zero Dawn. In that game, humanity get the shit kicked out of it. So it's, yeah, Zelda's not a fun place to be.
Yeah, I mean, even Wind Waker is post-apocalyptic. Jeez.
Yeah, Wind Waker, like everything is islands because everything flooded, including, well, no, just everything, just Hyrule flooded.
Breath of the Wild is an aftermath of a bad ending.
Yeah, and Age of Calamity, the prequel that's going to come out, is going to show you the worst of that. I think I might have mentioned this before, but it makes me think of Dark Souls, where as shitty as this place looks, like it's a dying world, you should have seen it a few years ago when everybody was fighting everybody and everybody it turned
died.
The world into this.
Yeah. Everybody was actually dying.
We tried lighting the first flame, and we fucked up so badly we accidentally created a whole new branch of magic called Chaos Magic. Or no, no, that wasn't it. They tried creating a second first flame. And you know how the entirety of Izalith is like lava land? Yeah, that is because of that. They fucked up royally.
Ugh. Yeah, I'm like even like searching through games, like just like most of them are terrible. Like, and
even Pokemon, it's like everything's literally a monster. Like there's just a dragon outside. There it is.
I mean, that's kind of
trying
fun,
to fight it.
I mean, everything's pretty plucky except for
Except for the entirety of the Pokedex. Oh, I caught a new monster. So what does this thing do? Oh, it steals the souls of children. Good thing he's on my side.
Yeah, you don't want to be a Nidhogg, that's for sure.
No, thank you. No, thank you.
Being sacrificed to the Nidhogg, if you win.
I actually think the world of like Drakengard and Nier might be about the worst places to be.
Dark Souls is pretty bad.
Yeah, I mean we're talking about places we do want to live, but Dark Souls is awful.
Yeah, I'm literally trying to page through everything, and I cannot find
something stupid and mundane like Stanley Parable. You work an office job, whatever.
Yeah, jazz punk, that would be pretty fun.
Ooh, no thanks.
Too stressful.
That world is fucked up. I don't even like what. It is bizarre. Plus, everyone's a robot.
I mean, you wouldn't want to be a robot.
I would not.
Really?
Yeah, no, fuck that.
You would not want to be part of Killer 7's world, I can tell you that. Yeah, no, I think most worlds have like most video game worlds have pretty fucked up worlds because like you're a character that needs to try to help them.
I don't know. Maybe Prince of Persia, the world's pretty much normal. Like you're just only playing the weird part of it.
Yeah, but like you have to, like by the second game the world's all fucked up and you have to try to fix it, and
that's true. The hero of the first game just fucked it up for everyone.
Yeah, no, like that's literally the whole conceit of the entire series is that you fucked it up.
Well, how about Uncharted? It's the regular world, except like it's like it's like Indiana Jones. The rest of the world has no idea.
Except you play a character that is basically a psychopath.
Yeah, but who cares? It's like, what world do you want to live in?
I mean, it's fun.
Like, don't live near any ancient ruins and you're good.
Yeah. Fallout, no good. The Witcher, no good. Mass Effect, no good. Yeah, no, I think we pretty much got it down.
Yeah, I'm telling you, like Stardew Valley or Harvest Moon, like it's regular. It's normal.
Yeah, Mario. I definitely want Mario because it's just play playful fun. I mean, like, you beat Bowser and then he comes back. I mean, it's just, it's one of those things. His kid thinks that Peach is his mom for some reason.
Yeah, that was weird. In an unskippable cutscene, thank you.
All right.
Oh, by the way, last week I had said, like, did Sunshine have no widescreen or something? I think it was Mario 64 that had no widescreen.
Oh, well,
which
that's
is a little
obvious.
weird because fan mods have taken care of that a long time ago.
Yeah. All right, well, I think we answered that one pretty good. Definitely, please contribute some questions here this week, guys.
We are fresh out.
So that is the show for this week. We want to thank all of our fans who contributed questions and comments. Please keep us supplied with awesome topics by submitting questions of your own via the YouTube and SoundCloud pages. Do it, guys. While there, please give us thumbs ups, likes, and 5-star ratings on iTunes. Helps promote and spread awareness of the show, and any bit of encouragement helps keep the show going. You can also catch us on Tuesday for our sister podcast, Corrective Consciousness, hopefully with some interesting tidbits. Maybe
Engaging
not as
topics,
interesting
yes.
as a Bethesda being bought out by Microsoft, but we'll
You never know.
You never know. The in-depth look at this week in our lives. Finally, you can friend me as vysethebold on pretty much everything.
And you could follow me on my YouTube channel, Lotus Prince. You can hit me up on Twitter at Lotus Prince. Finally, if you are interested in seeing my videos early, getting in on exclusive live streams, selecting upcoming games for me to Let's Play, or getting in discussions with me and other patrons on Twitter, then perhaps consider swinging by my Patreon account, which can be found at patreon.com/LotusPrince.
All right, everybody. We will catch everybody on Tuesday again. Catch you then.
Until next time, everyone.
Bye-bye.